I want to welcome everybody here today, and there more than likely will be a few glitches through today's meeting, so please just bear with us. And I think to start with, we'll go through a roll call to make sure that we know who we do have with us today. So do you want me to do that, Chloe, or did you want to do that?
Either way.
No, go ahead then. You have to pick the list there.
Councillor Birch. Councillor Comiskey.
Here.
Warden Martin.
Here.
Councillor Mayberry.
Here.
Councillor McKay. Deputy Warden Mullner.
Present.
Councillor Peterson.
Here.
Councillor Ryan.
Here.
Councillor Tate. Here. Councillor Talbot.
She's on.
I see you.
Can you hear us?
She can hear.
Councillor Talbot, can you hear us?
Not connected to audio.
Okay.
Okay, I'll email her.
Okay, so everybody, we're missing two then. We have a motion to approve the agenda. Councillor Comiskey?
Yes.
Oh, do you want to read the motion? Take it you don't have it?
Just 1 second.
Mr. Chair, I wonder.
Resolve that the agenda be approved.
That's moved by Comiskey and seconded by Ryan, I believe. Any discussion? Those in favor?
Yes.
Any
Yes.
opposed? Any opposed? Seeing none opposed, motion is carried. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, we will move on. We have adoption of the council minutes of the previous meeting, March the 11th. Councillor Comiskey.
Mr. Warden, I don't think Councillor Talbot can hear at all.
We're working on that.
The clerk is working on it.
Oh, just 1 second, please. Resolve that the council minutes of March 11th be adopted, 2020 be adopted.
It's moved by Comiskey and seconded by Ryan. Any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed, if any? Seeing none, motion is carried. Sandra still signing.
Yeah, Matt sent her a
Okay.
code.
Code of Conduct Workshop, Councillor Comiskey.
Resolve that the minutes of the March 11th, 2020 Code of Conduct Workshop be adopted.
There's again Comiskey and Ryan again. Any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor?
Yes.
Opposed, if any? Seeing none, motion is carried. Minutes of March 25th meeting, Councillor Tate.
Resolve that the minutes of the special meeting held March 25th, 2020 be adopted.
And that is moved by Tate and seconded by Comiskey. Any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor?
Yes.
Opposed, if any? Motion is carried, seeing none. There is nothing under public meetings. We have nothing under delegations and presentations. Consideration of delegations presentations, so that brings us down to consideration of correspondence. And we have one piece of correspondence from the City of Woodstock and Councillor Tate.
Resolve that the correspondence from the City of Woodstock dated March 6, 2020 regarding report number CAO 2020-01 titled Leaving Oxford with a 100% house future be received.
It's moved by Tate, seconded by Comiskey. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Aye.
Opposed, if any? Motion is carried. Correspondence from the Township of Blandford Blenheim, moved by Councillor Peterson.
Moved by Peterson, second by Molnar, resolve the correspondence from the Township of Blandford Blenheim dated March 9th, 2020 regarding report number CAO 2020-01 titled Lead Oxford to 100% House Future be received.
You've heard the motion. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Those opposed? Motion is carried. Accessibility Advisory Committee, a motion by Councillor Tate.
Resolve that the information provided in the correspondence from the Accessibility Advisory Committee dated March 18th, 2020 be received, and further that the clerk be instructed to embark on an advertising campaign to fill the 2 citizen vacancies on the Oxford County Accessibility Advisory Committee.
Moved by Councillor Tate and seconded by Councillor Komisky. Any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor?
Yes.
Opposed, if any? Motion is carried. Correspondence from the town of Tillsonburg. Councillor Molnar.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. It's been moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Mayberry, I believe. Resolved that the correspondence from the town of Tillsonburg dated the 24th of March, 2020 regarding the suspension of garbage bag tags be considered along with report CS 2020-13 titled COVID-19 Financial Relief Measures. I have one question.
Carry on then.
Just looking for procedurally that subject to the discussion under 2020-13 that you will not be penalized through any subsequent resolution that may be. This isn't that would not be considered reconsideration if there was alternative discussions on that report.
My interpretation would be that this motion recommendation would be discussed when we deal with or discuss the motion with regarding to 2020-13 at that time, and it would not be considered as a reconsideration, no.
Thank you, sir.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, those in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed, if any? Seeing none, motion is carried. Correspondence from the town of Tillsonburg, Councillor Molnar.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. It's moved by myself, second by Councillor Mayberry. Resolved that the correspondence from the town of Tillsonburg dated the 24th of March, 2020 regarding water and sewer bills be considered along with report CS 2020-13 titled COVID-19 Financial Relief Measures.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed, if any? Motion is carried.
Excuse me, Warden, if I might interrupt, has Councillor Talbot able to converse?
We've contacted her and I'm not too sure. She's very quiet for Councillor Talbot.
She has no audio connected still, and she can't hear or engage.
Would it be possible then for us just to take a 3-minute recess from the meeting to ask if our tech could assist her in any way through sign language?
As I think we'll try to do that then in order to get her in for the rest of the meeting.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Warden.
We'll take a short break then.
Does anybody have Sandra's cell phone number offhand? I don't seem to have hers.
Yes, I have it here. It's okay.
Are you there, Sandra?
I am.
She's connected now.
Thank you,
Thank
Warden.
you. Sorry about that. Don't know what happened.
You can hear us now then, can you? Councillor
I
Talbot?
can. Thank you.
Okay, good.
Here.
So we're not, okay then. So we are down to item 8.6 under correspondence, Councillor Talbot. And that is the
Thank you.
motion, the letter of correspondence from the Minister of Finance and, Councillor McKay's there now too.
Thank you.
Councillor Molnar.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Mayberry. Resolved that the correspondence from the Minister of Finance dated the 25th of March, 2020 regarding Ontario's action plan in response to COVID-19 be received as information.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor?
Yes.
Opposed, if any? Motion is carried, seeing none opposed. The correspondence from the Oxford County Federation of Agriculture, Councillor Molnar again.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. It's moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Mayberry, and resolved that the information contained in the correspondence from the Oxford County Federation of Agriculture be considered along with report CS 2020-12 titled 2020 Tax Policy Review.
Heard the motion, is there any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed, if any? Motion is carried. The correspondence from the Township of Southwest Oxford, Councillor Mayberry.
Thank you. Moved by myself and expected seconded by Molnar, but I don't have that sheet in front of me.
Actually, it's seconded by Councillor Talbot.
Seconded by Talbot. Thank you. Resolved that the correspondence from the Township of Southwest Oxford dated March 27th, 2020 regarding report number CAO 2020-01 titled Leading Oxford to 100% Housed Future be received.
You've heard the motion. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed, if any? Motion is carried. We have the 8.9 is the correspondence from the Solicitor General and Minister of Municipal Affairs. Councillor Mayberry is the mover and Councillor Talbot is the seconder. And Councillor Mayberry.
Moved by myself, resolved that the correspondence, that the correspondence from the Solicitor General and Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing dated March 27, 2020 regarding enforcement of emergency orders be received as information.
Heard the motion. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed, if any? None opposed, so motion is carried. Another one under the Municipal Affairs and Housing, moved by Councillor David Mayberry and seconded by Councillor Talbot. And Councillor Mayberry.
Move that result of correspondence from the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing dated April 1st, 2020 regarding a new social services relief fund be received as information.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor?
Yes.
Opposed, if any? None opposed, motion is carried. And we have the last piece of correspondence from the Upper Thames River Conservation Authority and Councillor Ryan.
Moved by Ryan, seconded by McKay, resolved that the correspondence from the Upper Thames River Conservation Authority dated March 26, 2020 regarding the 2020 budget be received as information.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor?
Yes.
Opposed, if any? Motion is carried then. We have one report under corporate services, and we have a motion for it from Councillor Ryan.
Moved by Ryan, seconded by Tate, resolved that the necessary bylaws addressing the following tax policy matters be prepared on the basis of staff direction received in response to the analysis contained in report number CS 2020-09 entitled 2020 Tax Policy for Council's consideration at the April 8th, 2020 Council meeting. That tax ratios remain the same as 2019 with the exception of A, multi-residential ratio set at 2.0, B, farm ratio set at 0.2177, C, tax rate reductions for prescribed property subclasses, and D, tax rates for upper tier purposes, and that the committee reconsider this ratio in 2020 in lieu of the fact that the new assessment numbers are going to come forward in 2021, and that the tax ratio ad hoc advisory committee continue its work with the intent of delivering a more comprehensive long-term recommendation on all tax ratios based on the new 2021 assessments and that the necessary bylaws be presented to council for consideration at the May 13th, 2020 council meeting.
You've heard the motion. Is there any discussion?
Warden, I'd like to speak to it
Molnar?
as a mover.
Just a minute. Councillor Mayberry was first?
Oh, not me.
Oh, okay, Councillor Molnar then.
Just confirmation that the resolution that's on the floor is different, supports discussion in March, but it's different than the recommendation that's included in our agenda package?
It is, and I'm not too sure what the,
I'm going to email that. I just received it from Councillor Ryan.
the email, the clerk is going to email the, of course, the resolution out to everybody. She just received the change, and it would be nice if we could have these in advance, that's all. So that we can, the way we're trying to operate, it's a little bit challenging with getting last minute surprises. But anyway, Councillor McKay, you had your hand up as well, I believe?
Well, I think Marcus Ryan had wanted to speak to it first.
Okay, Councillor Ryan then.
Just as the mover and as a member of the committee, I just wanted to say that personally, I would leave it to Councillor Mayberry or Molnar to speak as the co-chairs of the committee as to the committee's work. But personally, I've developed a much better understanding of the existing tax ratios and the implications of changes to those ratios on all classes as a result of the work of the committee. I think I'm very pleased with the education that I got as a counselor on all those. And I would really like to take this opportunity to thank staff, in particular, Lynn Bugner, for her education, guidance, endless question asking from the committee members. Based on that better understanding of the industrial, commercial, pipeline, and farm ratios, my understanding is that all of those are probably slightly too high in terms of the services that those property classes consume. Current provincial tax policy prevents us from increasing any tax ratio once it's lowered, with the exception of the farm ratio. So any of the others at this point, I personally would be very hesitant to consider lowering, because we could never change our minds and put them back up again, no matter what unforeseen circumstances like the one that we're all living in right now might come to be. But the farm tax ratio is one that the province does give us the legal ability to lower it and raise it as long as we stay below the 0.25 threshold. So therefore, I recommend the change to 0.2177 based on that being the equivalent ratio to result in a 5.8% increase, which is the budget that the county passed in December, and that the committee should continue doing its work, because I think there is a lot more to be understood here, and especially with the deferral now of MPAC assessments on residential from 2020. I can't hear the warden speaking. I can see him speaking, but I can't hear him.
Neither can
Can you
I.
hear? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Councillor McKay, did you have something you wanted to comment on?
Yes, just very much appreciate the work of the committee and staff, the Federation of Agriculture, and all council for engaging in this matter. It has been, as Marcus said, education process first and foremost over these last 4 years. And I think that's with the reassessment being pushed out a year, I think that's why Councillor Ryan has added that sentence into the resolution. Doesn't change anything that was circulated, simply adds, my understanding, listening to what he said, is simply saying, let's continue the work of the committee, engaging with staff and community on this. So thanks very much, and quite happy to support this resolution.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, I only have one comment. Pardon me?
Deputy Warden Mulner.
Oh, Deputy Warden Mulner.
Just for clarity, certainly echoing the comments made by committee member Ryan and others, I think approaching this from a more comprehensive standpoint has proven valuable. An opportunity for equity and fairness, although the definition has never been been unanimous, but I think the approach and the continuation of inclusivity as we move forward and encouraging, from my perspective, greater public engagement. Through the chair, the warden, I may ask though, just procedurally, this would come back on the, I believe it was a reference to the 8th, but the first meeting in May. And has there been any direction, amendments regarding the 2020 tax ratios from the Ministry of Finance or the Province of Ontario related to the setting of tax ratios for this current calendar year?
For the year 2020?
That's correct.
There's none that I'm aware of. Is Lynn on the line? You know, Chloe?
Yes, I am here.
Have you received any correspondence then, Lynn?
Nothing has changed other than the phasing in of the new assessment. So it's going to be delayed for a year.
No, okay. Thank you. And thanks with Lynn on the line, direct thanks to her and her team for the work they've done. And just confirming then the absolute deadline for your operational perspective on when the bylaw needs to be enacted?
Based on my meeting with the area municipal treasurers a week or so ago, it was made clear to me that they want to, out of this meeting, have some direction in terms of what those ratios are so they can prepare their final tax bills. Even pushing it out to May 13th, if they were to wait to set up their tax systems until that time, would be problematic in terms of getting their final bills out by their respective deadlines. So any direction I can take away today will assist me in helping them to get that work done in time. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for, there's mitigating portion of this resolution related to farm tax ratio. I certainly think when we begin dialogue on parallel opportunities to assist small business commerce throughout the County of Oxford region later in our agenda, that we're also reflecting on ways that the county can be proactive, especially at this point in time. So thank you for that, Mr. Ward.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion?
If I may, Warden David Mayberry here.
Yes, go ahead.
I just wanted to echo both Steve and Marcus's comments about the experience of working on the tax ratio committee and the education we've got from it. I think it's been worthwhile, and I do sincerely appreciate all the staff time and effort to kind of help us understand what is fairly complex. And I think most people in the public would have no idea of how complex and all of the rules and regulations that kind of have to be balanced. And what we want in the end is to make sure that we have a ratio that is fair and equitable, depending on how you define those, as Councillor Moeller pointed out, as possible for the taxpayers, that everyone carries their share of the burden most of the time. And I think that's what we are trying to do in this go round. And I think there's still work to be done, but I look forward to working on that committee.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Councillor Peterson, I couldn't see your face for your hand. Carry on.
Yeah, I just wondered if from what I'm hearing, it sounds like it's a really good experience for all the ones that are on the committee. And I just wondered if maybe, I agree, I think they should keep going on it. Maybe partway through the year or somewhere, if if the rest of us could kind of get some sort of that information that they're getting so that we can hopefully make some of these decisions as well.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
Mr. Warden, if I could, just a quick comment, and I'm sure Stephen will agree, as co-chairs, I'd be more than happy to work on a report, an interim report to kind of explain what we've done in relatively simple language, because that's the only way we're ever going to understand it anyways, I think. But I'd be happy to see that as one of the responsibilities of that committee going forward.
Thank you, Councilor Mayberry. The only problem that I have is I think we're lowering it prematurely if we're going to continue meet and reassess the reassessment and new assessment schedule in 21, that we all know that the residential is going to get hit significantly harder again in 21 when that comes back in. And they say never because never is a long time. But we will find that it is much easier to lower a ratio than it is to put it back, or even to try to increase it to make things more equitable. I know that in the township of Norwich, a person living on a $260,000 home is paying the same taxes that a person on a $1.2 million farm operation is paying. And that is under the 0.235 scenario that we have operated under for the last 2 years. So I just put that out there that under the 0.235, we're looking at it in Norwich now, because I don't like percentages because they're misleading. The tax increase for 2020 would be $112.66 a month, or a year, I mean, on farm property, which equates down to $9 a month increase over 2019. So those are my comments for what they're worth, and any further discussion?
Warden,
Seeing
if I
none,
could.
then? Pardon me?
Councillor Ryan, if I could.
Yes, you can.
So with respect, I would submit that with the residential being deferred for residential impact assessment being deferred for a year, that that means there's potentially 2 years of a change in the tax ratio to take effect, and that I think that while there is legitimate concern over what's going to happen to the residential property tax rates assessments when they come next time, that due to the current COVID situation, I would suggest we don't really know, with any confidence what that impact is really going to be. So combination of that and 2 years of potential ratios ahead, I think it's still worth making the change. The other thing is, I can only say for myself personally, I've made it clear to any OCFA members that I've spoken to and individual farmland property owners that my position is absolutely that this is a tool to be used to address spikes in assessment, and that my position would be that if residential went up dramatically, that I would absolutely not only support raising the farm tax ratio, but may even bring the motion myself. So I have no qualms whatsoever about lowering and raising this to address spikes in assessment and therefore in taxes. But I just say that as a clarification of my position, I suppose.
Well, thank you for your comments. Councillor Komisky.
Number one, I certainly do appreciate being on the committee, and I really do appreciate the knowledge that's come forward through all the meetings, and certainly the support of the staff has been phenomenal. Right now, I'm nervous about a lot of things, and what the status will be next year, what direction we're going in. Certainly, how the virus right now will affect the future and the direction, certainly impact. There's so many things right now that are uncertain for next year. Consistency is a good thing at this point in time. Being able to, I agree with Warden, being able to lower right now is one thing, to increase it is going to be very difficult down the road, depending, potentially, if needed. I know that Councillor Ryan, you commented, and I certainly do appreciate your knowledge and whatnot that you brought to the committee. But I'm just saying that being able to bring it up and down is one thing, but the ability to bring it up and down in the sense of of the need when required. I can't support right now any changes. I'd like consistency, and I've talked about this within the committee, that I'm concerned about consistency and what effect it will have on residential, let alone farming community at this point in time. I encourage us to kind of status quo right now with the ratios for the year. It's not going to make any change in costs in that sense for this term. But that's where I feel right now, that I don't want to support any changes to the ratio this time because of uncertainty in the future.
Thank you very much, Councillor Thomas. Any further discussion? Seeing none, then I will ask for a recorded vote.
Warden Martin,
No.
Councillor Mayberry,
Yes.
Councillor McKay,
Yes.
Deputy Warden Mulliner,
No.
Councillor Peterson,
Yes.
Councillor Ryan,
Yes.
Councillor Tate,
Yes.
Councillor Talbot,
Yes.
Councillor Komisky.
No?
A motion carries at a count of 7-3, or I'm sorry, 6-3, pardon me. So, thank you very much for your time. And I want to thank the committee for all the work that they've done, and I look forward to your report and your ongoing work on that issue. So that brings us down to corporate services financial relief measures. And Lynn, are you going to speak to this, or we just deal with the motion? I should ask for the motion first, I guess. Councillor Ryan?
Moved by Ryan, seconded by McKay, resolved that the recommendations contained in report number CS 2020-13 titled COVID-19 Financial Relief Measures be adopted.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Lynn, is there anything you wanted to comment on this?
Certainly prepared to ask or answer any questions that council may have in this regard. I've tried to provide a bit of background in terms of what's being offered by the provincial and federal government agencies as well, to see whatever we do, or to try to ensure that whatever we do enhances what is already being done and not necessarily replicates or duplicates other efforts out there. Certainly, this was written March 30th, so it's not necessarily 100% up to date, but I think it gives a good breadth of what services and supports are available out there, particularly for residential, small business, and some degree of nonprofits. We're also looking at the opportunity here to work with other community agencies to help support again, small businesses in that regard. Again, an option for council to consider. And I've also received a call since this report was written from our economic development partners within the area municipalities. So they're interested in looking at this as well. I said that I would be in contact with them after this meeting to discuss council's reaction and any direction we receive thereof. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Talbot.
Thank you. This is through to Ms. Bugner because it was under the bag tag user fees, talking about response to residents who required to be isolated in their homes and unable to get them. And it said that we have implemented a procedure that allows residents to call in limited order. Can you explain to me that process?
Okay, so when we receive a call from a customer and they are unable to leave their home, they're in self-isolation or mandatory quarantine and can't leave their home, and they need bag tags for the next delivery or pickup, then we will send them for up to 4 tags. So that would do them 2 weeks. So if they're in quarantine or self-isolation for that period of time, that should get them through that period. Otherwise, Anybody can order online right now by calling, and we can send them out by mail. And we are also in the process of setting up an online order system. So it's just a matter of getting that financial process established online. So there's several ways there that we can assist those that are in need.
I guess that's how, if I can continue on, I guess that was my question, how we were doing payment for that over whether it was just being added on to their taxes, and so that they wouldn't have to worry about that. And I was curious as to the delivery system, because I'm not sure that mail is being delivered every day to every box. I'm not positive.
Right, and further to that, if I could, Warden, that we are aware that there are some delays in the mail service currently. Similarly, they're subject to the same distance separation rules that we are, so they cannot have as many staff in operation at the same time. So in the event that we notice if there is any urgency in terms of like they need the tags for that current week or the next week, and we have any concerns about it getting there on time, we do have our library van available, and they can courier it directly to the home if needed.
Okay, can I, if I can just continue on that, and I'm curious because I know that a lot of our outlets are running out because people are home now, and they're using the opportunity to go through and are producing more or putting out more than normal, and some of our smaller businesses are running out as well, and they don't have the ability to get them. So would we deliver to them as well?
Through the warden to Councillor Talbot. Yes, in fact, we could if that becomes a problem. You're absolutely right. There is a bit of increase in the number of tags that we're selling currently. And as you said, people are stuck in their homes. They're cleaning out, doing some spring cleaning. They're cleaning their garages and their sheds. And so it is producing more waste. And we are trying to address that as best we can.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Could I just ask one question, Lynn? Through to there is an email address where they can email their request through to or for information, and I've got it on a piece of paper at home beside the phone, but I don't have it here. Could you give us that email address?
Yes, you can always email customerservice@oxfordcounty.ca.
Thanks very much, Lynn. Is there any further discussion with regards to this report? Any of the members? Seeing none, then I will call for the vote.
I was being patient, so Member Molnar, if I may, please.
Deputy Warden Molnar.
Thank you very much, Mr. Warden. Certainly respecting both the author and the content of the report. Little concerned that within the report itself, referenced on numerous occasions, is the word immediate. We've just basically given direction to amend our tax ratio policy that ultimately will bring longer term relief to one class. Downtowns are being decimated. Individual residents are losing jobs, and industries that are closed, we just hope they're even going to be around to come back and be part of the regeneration of an economy in Oxford. So I speak in support of the identifications and the opportunities that are available in a generic way regarding this program or similar programs. But there's no immediacy in the text of the resolution. You know, to work positively with the community futures of Oxford is a valuable mid to long-term step to identify options that will bring forth recovery opportunities. But a snapshot of certainly communities, the streets, residential neighborhoods, and the ability of those people to exist from day to day is immediate. And I would encourage, whether it's now or whether it's subsequent to this resolution or whether it's dealing with the positive opportunities that were introduced in March and that are referenced in some point in this. So I want to be transparent and consistent on whether it's interest deferrals on taxes, or water and wastewater fees, or the bag tag initiative. Those discussions, as confirmed at the start of the meeting, can be held separately, and I'll try to remove myself from discussing those now. But I will stress the importance that while this resolution is on the floor, and the wording and the text speaks to immediate and immediacy on a number of occasions, nothing in the resolution speaks to the urgency or the immediacy of the situation we have right across the county of Oxford. So I'll support the resolution, support and publicly ensure that all those are aware of Community Futures Oxford and their use, and then the support that they got from FedDev Southwestern Ontario to utilize reserves with special 0% increase to not what was originally to be designed just for rent assistance is now assisting on other cash flow opportunities for businesses across Oxford County. That's immediate reaction and action. The federal government has taken initiative. They made announcements. It took a while to get the programs. Then the programs took a while to get to, identified, and now they're being streamlined out. And hopefully there'll be cash in Canadian pockets from coast to coast in the next week to 10 days. The province of Ontario has been proactive, and I know municipalities in the county of Oxford that have assisted and redirected pre-budgeted funds in other areas to assist in small business in downtown cores. So I think it's incumbent upon the county of Oxford to look proactively and immediately at options that are available and some creative out-of-the-box options. And I look forward to that discussion later in the meeting. So at least thank you for that opportunity to introduce some of those support. Thank you, the author, but also some concerns about the definition of immediate.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
Larry, it's David Mayberry
Yeah.
here. You can't see me waving, but I am. I did have my hand up. I think I would agree with Steve to a certain extent that we want to do something, but I think there's other things that we can do, and one of them would be to make sure that we put some effort, and I know that the ECDEV groups are, the Connections, Oxford Connections are, in getting the word out to people. I think they've done an excellent job getting the word out to people. What are the options that are available at the upper levels of government? And then for us to look at what we can do. I understand the treasurers are meeting again, and maybe Lynn can tell us about this. I'm also aware that the economic development groups are meeting regularly. And I think my caution would always be that we don't create a cure that's worse than the disease. So we don't want to get ourselves in a bad way either. But we do want to make sure that the economy of Oxford is thriving, or as close to thriving as it can be coming out of this. And we will come out of it. It's not a the end of time sort of thing. It's a hiccup on the road, but it is a serious one, and we need to deal with it. I would just encourage the treasurers and the economic development groups to bring forward the kind of recommendations that they think we need to provide. And I would agree with Councillor Molnar, or Deputy Warden Molnar, on the congratulations to Community Futures. Great idea. Be proactive, get out there. That's exactly what we want to see. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, those in favor then?
Yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? Motion is carried. We're going to take a 5-minute recess. Something has come up.
Hello? Can you hear me now?
Not who it is, but I can hear you.
All right, it's Trevor Birch. I was on the line the whole time, but I guess no one could hear me, and I didn't get to speak on one of the previous items, and I wanted to speak to it.
So Trevor,
how do we handle that?
I'm not sure. I'm looking at everybody else and they don't seem to be able to hear you. I don't know
Yeah,
how I'm hearing you.
I can hear him.
I can.
Can you? Okay.
Speak. Actually, Councillor Birch, you were registered as a, come online as a member of the public and not as a member of council, so you couldn't have appropriately logged into the meeting as everybody else has, and that is one reason why you were not in the queue and we were not able to see you or hear you. You didn't
Yes,
really
I
follow
understand.
appropriate procedures.
Oh, I clicked the link that was in the email I received. That's how I registered.
I know you would be the only one that didn't then.
Oh, I'm not going to say I'm a wizard with technology, and I appreciate that fact that this is all new for each of us. I would like to see if it's possible to have my vote counted on the tax ratio one, and any comments.
Well, actually, we've already considered that, and that was.
Oh, now I can't hear you. Okay, what's going on?
We've already, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
We've already had discussion and the vote has been taken, so in order to revisit that, we would have to have a reconsideration, but the vote on that issue was 6 in support of and 3 opposed, so regardless of which way you vote, it will not change the outcome.
Unless after my discussion, anyone changes their mind.
Well, unfortunately, we've called for the vote already and it's been voted on.
I'm not too sure if I can be heard or not, Warden.
Yes, you can.
The procedure-wise, we all recognize that the vote was taken. But procedure-wise, if it is important for a counselor to be heard, the process then is what, to reopen or reintroduce or ask for it to be reintroduced? Could you explain the procedure?
I think to be
Right here.
the purpose of a reconsideration of vote is to permit correction of hasty, ill-advised, or erroneous action, or to take into account added information or change situation that has developed since the taking of a vote. No discussion of a main question once resolved shall be allowed unless reconsidered. After any question has been resolved, except a motion not subject to debate or one of indefinite postponement, any member who voted in the majority may make a motion for reconsideration thereof, and a motion of reconsideration shall include a statement by the mover of at least one valid reason why the main question so previously decided must be reconsidered by council. So, I don't think there was haste in making a decision. I think we considered all areas. We looked at it from all angles. We discussed it, debated it, pro and con both ways. And I think it was given ample discussion. And it's very unfortunate that we are meeting under these circumstances. But we have to beat the best way we can with the cards that we have. So
I appreciate that.
Councillor Komisky, you have your hand up?
Yes, yes, thank you, Warden. Yeah, you're absolutely correct. These are kind of crazy circumstances that we're even holding a meeting at this point in time. We've seen the technology problems that have existed. I think just about with everyone that's come on board, there has been some issue. That's all I'm indicating. The fact is that we have a counselor that has had some issue. We can't see him, so that would kind of the inability for him to be seen or heard at this point in time, coming into the meeting later, or the inability to join under proper circumstances I think should be recognized, that this being a first-time council meeting is not, I guess it's second, but that we recognize that there is issues, and maybe they could be overlooked the technology right now and allow a motion to take place if you feel that it warrants it, Warden.
Actually, I say no. That we've
Okay.
dealt with it, discussed it, and we
Would I-
considered reports, and it was the recommendation of the committee that has met substantially over the past few. It's very unfortunate, but where do we go the next time it happens?
Can I just
Can you hear-
comment? It's Councillor Tate. For motion of reconsideration, according to the rules, it can be brought back to the next meeting.
Yes, it can, if there is something, some item, at least one item of new information that hasn't been considered at the previous meeting.
Correct. So Councillor Birch can make a notice of motion to bring back his reconsideration at the next meeting. It's not up to us to decide at this meeting. I
No.
believe that it can be posted to the next meeting. Is that not correct?
No,
Yes, you are 100% correct.
no, he's not.
No,
No.
you cannot. Sorry.
Yeah.
You have to be present in the meeting and have voted in the affirmative to be able to ask for reconsideration.
In the majority.
No,
Okay.
no, if you're absent in the meeting, you are considered that you are in the majority of the vote. So if I was absent for this meeting and it passed, then I would be counted as voting in the affirmative. That's the Robert's Rules of Order. I mean, we don't have to have the discussion right now. I'm just saying for the next meeting, it can be brought back.
Can you hear me right now? Anyone?
Yes, we can.
Or am I- Okay. So I guess would the way to handle this, if Councillor Tate was to ask for this to come back for reconsideration so that I can be part of the discussion and give information?
Yes,
Yes, I would say so.
with new information.
With
Do
at
we,
least
do we
one item-
want,
With at least one item of new information.
Let's do it at the next meeting.
okay. Hey, you want to do that at the next meeting? Okay, we can do that.
We can do that then, Councillor Birch.
See, even at the start of the meeting today with the roll call, I thought you could all hear me. So I didn't hear me being marked absent. I just assumed that you all heard me and that I'm on the line.
See, at the best
I
of
don't-
times, with the way we're set up, Councillor Birch, the best of times, I only see 6 people counting myself. So I only see 5 other members. We're unable to get all 10 members on the screen. So, and we went through the roll call, and yours was the only response we didn't receive. So we assume that you weren't here.
See, and I guess me listening in and me saying, yes, I'm here, I didn't hear anything saying, oh, Councillor Birch is absent. I guess it'd almost be better to say who's absent or that kind of thing. I don't know.
So anyway, you can reintroduce that or reconsideration for that, or Councillor Tate can have a motion to reconsider if you want. And
All
it
right,
will
thank
open
you
it up.
very much, Gordon.
Yeah, that's quite all right. Okay, so we can move on then? Are we muted here or are we still open? Okay then. That moves us down to community planning then. And that is Councillor McKay and Peterson.
Moved by McKay, seconded by Peterson, resolve the recommendations contained in report CP 2020-94, Phase 1 Comprehensive Review, County and Area Municipal Growth Forecasts, and Land Need Analysis be adopted.
Any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor?
Yes.
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 Opposed, if any?
Yes.
Hearing none?
Yes.
Oh, Councillor, you're opposed, okay.
Well,
One
I
opposed.
had a comment and I was on mute, so I apologize.
Oh,
So I will oppose then,
okay then.
because the information is inaccurate and it's damaging to certain municipalities. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Point of order, Warden, has the vote then been called or not? I'm not sure where we are.
Yes, it has. The vote has been called and it was supported. This brings us down to the draft for connecting the Southwest Transportation Plan, and Councillor Ryan and Councillor McKay.
Moved by Ryan, seconded by McKay, resolved that the recommendations contained in report number CAO 2020-02 titled Draft Connecting the Southwest Transportation Plan be adopted.
Any discussion?
As the mover, I'd like to speak to it, Warden.
Pardon me, Councillor Ryan?
Just as the mover, I'd like to speak to it.
Well, carry on then. I've
Just
lost your picture is the problem, Councillor Ryan. I don't have it here now, so.
Sorry, I
There you
wasn't
go.
allowed
Okay.
to share it before. It's back now. I just want to speak to that. I think this is an extremely strong report. I think that it's 100% consistent with previous discussions council had for improved not only personal transportation but freight transportation issues for economic development in the region, and that this is a regional issue bigger than Oxford County. By definition, that's kind of what transit is about. And that I think that I want to commend staff for the work they've done on this, because the provincial government's new Connecting the Southwest plan is highly reflective of the Southwest Links plan that Oxford County staff have presented in the past. And I think that's going to make it extremely easy for us as a regional government to engage successfully with the province on this plan and make the most of it for residents. So I just want to make it clear that how strongly I support this and how strongly I thank staff for the hard work they've done on it. There's, notwithstanding the current situation around the pandemic, there's immense potential in us moving forward what is essentially now the province's version of Oxford's transit plan. And I want to thank staff again and say how strongly, again, I support this plan and that we should pursue it with all possible vigor and enthusiasm.
Thank you very much, Councillor Ryan. I couldn't agree with you more, and I agree that there's a lot of work that's gone into this plan, and hopefully we agree that we will all support it as well so that we can move forward. So, any further discussion? Seeing none, those in favor? Oh, just a minute.
Sorry, you
Councillor
can't see me.
Oh, I can't see whoever's speaking.
David Mayberry, sorry, I was just going to say
David.
that. I would echo Marcus's comments. The one area that I would raise is under the third recommendation, that we advise of council's position to the on the draft Connecting the Southwest Transportation Plan. And I'm wondering if advised is a strong enough word, reflecting on Councillor Ryan's comments. We want to be more than advised. We want to encourage and empower. We want to offer to be a full partner in moving this forward. And I'm just to reiterate something that Councillor Ryan said. We want to push this as hard as we can, because if we don't, who is going to, right? And I mean, I think everybody will have their own little nuances to it, but I think we, and I would encourage staff that to take a very liberal view of advise, and to engage as much as possible with the province, that we want to be a full partner in this. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Any further comments?
Could I just to comment on that? The reason that the term advised was used is because these comments had been submitted as part of the timeline submissions on the plan. And this was simply to make sure that the minister and our MPP is aware of council's resolution in support of our prior submission. So our prior submission is very much along the lines that Councilor Mayberry is talking about. And it's just that this is intended to provide a council resolution in support of that prior submission.
If I may, Warden Martin, David Mayberry, I would just say that even in advising the minister and the member Hardeman, I would encourage us to be as encouraging, supportive, and I suggest dynamic as we can be to make this, that we're there. We fully agree, we fully support, we want to be partners in this. So any opportunity we have to talk to them, I would want that reiterated or supported or pushed forward to them. So thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. Any further discussion? Seeing none, those in favor?
Yes.
Opposed, if any? Motion is carried. And that brings us down to the one on the nutrient management review, and it is Councillor McKay, you have that one?
Moved by McKay, seconded by Peterson. Resolved the recommendation contained in report 2020-03, review of Nutrient Management Act regulations, on-farm regulated mixed anaerobic digestion facilities, ERO number -019-1234 be adopted.
You've heard the motion. Is there any discussion?
Mayberry here, if I can.
Yeah, okay, David.
Thank you, Warden Martin. I just want to say good report, excellent report, in fact. And I agree with the recommendations. I think this is something that's timely, and I think this is something, Oxford being such a strong agricultural community, that I appreciate staff being involved, because I think we want to be there on this one. This is one that could help our agricultural and should help our agricultural community. I would simply add as well that Southwest Oxford provided a report that I would say is very similar to a lot of the same themes that the county has done.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, those in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, opposed, if any?
Yes.
Opposed, if any? Motion is carried. It's unanimous. That moves us down to the Public Works report, and it's Councillor McKay again.
Moved by McKay, seconded by Peterson. Resolved the recommendations contained in report PW 2020-12, contract award, Oxford Road 16, reconstruction phase 1, and culvert replacement, Zor Township be adopted.
You've heard the motion. Is there any discussion? Councillor Mulder?
Molnar, thank you, Mr. Warden. Just background information relative to supporting the work as budgeted and planned for, but any general comments from our Public Works Department, senior leadership relative to stop work on certain projects based on their prioritization from the most recent essential services decree from the province of Ontario regarding construction sites and other essential construction areas?
Peter or David, you want to comment on that?
I think David probably should, and I can add to it if I need to.
Chicken's done.
Wrong, David. Well, it's not going to.
No, I just, sorry, maybe David's having trouble connecting. I can provide. We are working to come up with a criteria that fits the province's guidelines for essential work. We're looking at works that are imminently important to be undertaken, and at the same time, make sure that we're consistent with what the province is suggesting and what we know is the right thing to do from a COVID-19 standpoint. Having said that, we're also looking at this as setting the stage for work that we can turn on very quickly once the measures are relaxed somewhat as well. So we're setting it up so that we can go in either direction, and hopefully a number of these projects actually will probably go forward because they'll fit that criteria of imminently needed works.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? You have to recall that this report was prepared for our last meeting as well, so I mean it was long in advance of where we are today. Any further discussion? Seeing none, those in favor? Those in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed, if any? Motion is carried. It's unanimous. The Deer Water Center Treatment Plant, Councillor McKay.
Moved by McKay, seconded by Peterson, resolve the recommendations contained in Public Works Report 2020-13, Durham Center Water Treatment Plant Process Upgrades Municipal Class Environmental Assessment Study be adopted.
Any discussion? Seeing none.
If
Those
I
in favor?
Mr. Warden, just
Oh,
before, just again, one of the things that we're trying to validate is that we can actually post a public notice of completion within and the timeframes in the COVID environment. We think we can because it's for information only, but we're validating that before we finalize it. With the resolution, we'd go forward if it's appropriate to go forward. If not, as soon as the relaxation happens.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Those in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed, if any? Motion is carried. It's unanimous. Northeast Trunk Sewer Municipal Class Environmental one, Councillor Peterson.
Moved by Peterson, second by Moeller, resolve that recommendation contained in report number PW 2020-14 titled Northeast Trunk Sewer Municipal Class Environmental Assessment Study be adopted.
Any discussion? Councillor Talbot?
Sorry, I had to unmute.
There you go.
I was just curious when I was looking over the plans for that and where the actual easements go, especially on the one corner of Blackfoot, I saw that there was only one property that had a pool in the backyard. And I wondered how that was going to be affected if they go in and replace it.
Could you answer that, Peter?
Actually, I'm hoping David is able to get on the line to be able to answer it. I don't know that level of detail.
Okay.
It seemed to be the only obstacle that was in that whole easement. And I realize that if people build things in easements, it's usually their problem, but I'm curious to know about that one.
And I'm not sure what's happened to David.
If we just give, we'll give the clerk a minute to go and see if, because we're on the same floor David's on, so we'll just take a short break on this then. Oh, Matt's gonna go then, okay.
David's on the phone, I believe.
No, we saw it.
No, I think he's here, I think, Peter. I could be wrong. Is there any discussion while we wait for David to come back? Well, we'll wait and hear his response then.
Suffice to say that I can get the detail out to you, Councillor Talbot. My suspicion is that we're avoiding the pool, but I don't know that for sure. I'm not sure how we're avoiding the pool though.
Thank you.
So you're good with that then, Councillor Talbot?
Yeah, most certainly.
Carry on then, I guess. Any further discussion? Seeing none then, those in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed, if any? Motion is carried, unanimous. No stopping zone on Oxford Road 4. Councillor Peterson.
Moved by Peterson, second by Moeller, resolved that recommendation contained in report number PW 2020-16 titled No Stopping Zone - Oxford Road 4 Woodstock be adopted.
Do you want me to speak in the mic there?
Any discussion? We're all well aware this is right beside the Tim Hortons and Bonds Corners, so these seem to be a standard sign by Tim Hortons. But anyway, any further discussion? Seeing none, those in favor?
Yes.
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 Opposed, if any? Motion is carried, it's unanimous.
It's coming.
They already took the vote.
Peter's going to mail out the responses. Quite all right, David. So under the contract award for Oxford Road 35, which is Devonshire Ave in the city of Woodstock, I've got Councillor Birch. Are you here yet, Councillor Birch? I'm not here. So we need to move it.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Now, there you go. Okay, yep.
Okay, so
Yep.
moved by myself. Who was the seconder? Sorry, Councillor Tate.
Councillor Tate.
Resolved that the recommendations contained in report number PW 2020-17 titled Contract Award Urbanization of Oxford Road 35, Devonshire Ave, City of Woodstock be adopted.
Any discussion? Seeing none. Those in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed, if any? Motion is carried. Unanimous. The landfill compactor. Councillor Birch.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Tate. Resolved that the recommendations contained in report number PW 2020-18 titled Landfill Compactor Tender Award be adopted.
Any further discussion? Or any discussion, I guess. Seeing none. Those in favor?
Yes.
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 Opposed, if any? Motion is carried. Unanimous. Councillor Birch.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Tate. Resolved that recommendations contained in report number HR 2020-03 titled Selection of Executive Search Firm for CAO Recruitment be adopted.
Any questions? Fairly straightforward report, so, those in favor?
Yes.
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 Opposed, if any? Motion is carried, it's unanimous. Any unfinished business? We have motions. Councillor Ryan, did you want that dealt with today or our next meeting?
Oh, no, today, Warden.
Okay. So then I will, we're down to that point in the meeting then, Councillor McKay? Or McKay, yeah, Councillor Ryan?
Moved by Ryan, seconded by McKay. Resolved that at the next meeting of council, staff report on the options, implications, and process, including consultation on potential impacts to and necessary coordination with area municipalities, for which council could authorize: 1, the waiver of late fees for interim tax revenue payments from area municipalities, and 2, the waiver of late fees for residential and business water, wastewater payments.
With the motion, is there any discussion? Councillor Talbot.
I'm just curious, are you putting any date on that? Like, is this going to go on for how long?
So I had, if I could, Warden, answer the question.
Here you have, yes.
So I had not put a date on it. The intention was that we would get a report back from staff and understand the implications before we put a date on it, because I think, speaking to your concern, my intention is not that this would be indefinite, that at some point council would have to make a judgment either in advance or as the pandemic progressed to what realistically could be afforded in terms of operational costs and how this would be financed, whether it was from reserves or not. So my intention was that we would get the report back on implications as soon as possible. If that required, if the report is ready soon enough, then I would certainly be supportive of an extra council meeting to consider it. But yeah, the intention was not for it to be indefinite, or for that decision to be made based on the implications in the report.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any further?
Gordon, could I speak to that? It's Lynn Bogner. Could I please speak to that comment?
Yes.
Thank you. So report number 2020-13 that was on today's agenda was intended to address this notice of motion as well. The late payment fees for the interim tax installments from the area municipalities, as I indicated in the report, they would be considered on a case-by-case basis. So, depending on the cash flow of the area municipalities, again, in order to keep the supply chain going, want to make sure that we're accommodating that. And I've been very gracious in the past to work with our area municipal partners in terms of if they had any cash flow issues at the time of those installment due dates. So what that report earlier intended that I would continue to do that. But as we get closer to the next installment due date, which would be June 30th, in the event that it becomes a more acute measure, then we will bring something back to council and report directly to council. With respect to the water and wastewater payments, again, in that same report on the council agenda today, it indicated that we would be working with our billing and collection agents to work out payment plans specific to individuals' needs. That's business and residents that need relief in extending those payment obligations. And there's also been discussion in terms of waiving those interest and penalty costs. And again, that was addressed in that report. So we will be accommodating on an individual as need basis in both regards. So I don't believe there's a need for another report. However, as the treasurers and I will continue to be meeting on a regular basis, in the event that anything changes, we would certainly be bringing something forward to council. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Molnar?
Thank you very much. And with respect, first of all, I apologize. I thought I was on mute and the dog was beginning to make a bit of the background noise, and I was looking, so I apologize to the director and all those in attendance. I'm be supporting the recommendation. This recommendation goes back to March. It was deferred because our meeting was deferred. There was messaging. It was commented on by this individual member of council earlier on the agenda. So with full respect to what the material in there was regarding interest deferral on taxes and abatement on water and wastewater, and even reference to bag tags, council has the opportunity to give direction to bring back some educated information relative to financial impacts. With a landfill reserve that's currently at $22 million and is over, it's $2 million greater than the targeted item at year end of 2020. And I believe our overall general reserves are now understanding, I'm not committing to any utilization of them to the sustainability and security of the financing of the county, but that's $170 million. So I go back to the point where the federal government's engaged, the province is engaged, lower tier municipalities are engaged, and I believe, if I'm not interpreting the resolution that is on the floor and which I am speaking to, it's looking for additional information on options that are not included with the resolution that's earlier in the meeting that speaks to working with the Community Future Oxford for a more sustainable long-term recovery plan. So I'll be supporting the resolution. I would have encouraged that it included a third bullet point regarding a bag tag suspension program, and I would look for an amendment to that. Nothing in this resolution says that any resources are being done or any amendments to policy are being made. It's a request for information. And my final point, the resolution speaks to next meeting, and I would fully endorse and support that, especially when it's related to any COVID-19 financial or operational issues, that we're not standing by the fact that our next meeting is now the 13th of May, that we have the capacity within our current procedural bylaw to work forward when material is available, and we work diligently on behalf of all stakeholders in Oxford County. So thank you very much. I want to recognize the efforts of Director of Finance through the chair and the warden, but I look at the mover to also include additional resource for information at the next meeting of County Council.
The mover, do you have a objection to the amendment?
I have no objection to the amendment. I have not made an amendment, and I'm not sure if an amendment has formally been put on the floor. Proceed.
Oh, I understood. I think on the preamble that Councillor Molnar put forward, there was an amendment to be added to that it come back at our next meeting. Is that correct, Councillor Molnar? Yeah. Okay, I guess we don't need one. I apologize.
I'm trying to expedite the opportunity for a very brief paragraph on financial implications to be able to, the same way that I believe the resolution speaks to taxes and speaks to water and wastewater, it would also include a third bullet point regarding a suspension for a period of time of garbage bag tags. I'm trying to bring it in a comprehensive fashion so that additional resolutions aren't, I guess I'm just trying to, in the spirit of that. So I would look to the mover to get the support of his seconder to add that on to his resolution. Thank you for that time, Mr. Warden.
And back to you then, Councillor Ryan.
I would defer to the chair, but I think procedurally the correct way to deal with this would be for for someone to move an amendment and for council to have, and for a seconder for the amendment, and for council to consider the amendment and then consider the original question whether amended or not. But I would defer to the chair.
Well, if we have a mover and a seconder then.
Can I ask a question?
Councillor Moeller, you were going to move that?
No, I understand the potential rationale for not including. So upon immediate decision of this, I would look for recognition from the chair to add an additional resolution from the floor, and would look for Councillor Ryan seconding on that, and I'll bring that up subsequent to the resolution and the wording exactly as it is on the floor.
Thank you very much then. Councillor Mayberry, I believe you wanted to speak?
Oh, sorry, not me.
Councillor
like
McKay then.
Birch.
Oh, I'm
Councillor
sorry.
Birch.
Councillor Birch.
Just for clarification on the water and wastewater rates. Now, saying the word business there, are we looking at, is that commercial only, or is that word business meant to include industrial? Because I'm wondering if it should just be more simply put that the water and wastewater rates without any categorization, that the waiver of late fees for water and wastewater payments and not have classification there? Or was it the intent of the mover that industrial is excluded from the analysis?
Warden, if I could speak to the question.
Yes, carry on.
Yeah, Councillor Birch, that's a good point. It was certainly not the intention to be exclusive of certain property tax classes. Quite the opposite. The intention of the motion was that we get a report back on the options, implications in the process, and that would be part of that. Would be, are there unique implications for different tax classes or different users? So I would defer to the warden, but I think procedurally, if we want to have an amendment to remove residential and business, then I would certainly be supportive of that.
So are you making that a motion, Councillor Birch?
Sure, I'd make that a motion that point 2 of Councillor Ryan's motion be the waiver of late fees or water wastewater payments.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Ryan? Okay. Discussion on the motion, on the amendment, I should say. Any discussion on the amendment put forward by Councillor Birch? Seeing none, those in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed, if any. Motion is carried then. So now, any discussion on the the original motion? Seeing none, those in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed, if any. Motion is carried. It's unanimous then. Okay, we have a motion, Councillor Birch, to go into closed session.
With respect, I believe.
Oh, just Councillor Muller.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. It's moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Ryan. Resolved that at the next meeting of council, staff report on the options, implications, and processes, including consultation on potential impacts to and necessary coordination with area municipalities, for which council could authorize a suspension of bag tags for a defined period of time.
And that is for our next meeting, correct?
All I've done is incorporate bullet point 3 into a separate resolution.
And that will be for discussion when the report comes back at our next meeting.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other anything else under close our notices of motions, comments?
Whoa.
Oh,
No.
okay.
No.
Councilor Muller?
No, that resolution needs to be on the floor. I thought you meant by discussion, if the material would be discussed at the next meeting, similar and in parallel with the information that we just endorsed.
I thought I was treating it as
It's not a notice of motion, that's a resolution.
Okay, I apologize. I was treating it as a notice of motion.
That's why it would have been easier to add it as a number 3 onto the other one. Yeah.
I would think so too, but anyway.
That's how we should have done
Councilor
it.
Komisky.
Just in procedure for understanding, do we have to make a motion to accept another motion at this meeting that isn't in the agenda?
It should be it.
Personally, I feel it should be a notice of motion because it is a new motion, separate from one that was circulated with the agenda.
If I could continue on, Warden, the fact is for to be able to have this roll, what is the easiest way to have this motion passed so that the information can be presented at the next meeting rather than just a motion brought forward at the next meeting?
That's a good question.
Maybe
Councilor
that's why
Ryan.
we should have just added it to the last one. Like,
Pardon
wow.
me? Councilor Ryan?
I would, of course, defer to the chair, but I think procedurally, all we have to do is consider Councillor Molnar's motion as a notice of motion. I think our procedural bylaw allows that a 2/3 majority to consider it, and it's considered now, and then we vote on it now, I think.
Yes, you're right. With the majority, 2/3 majority of the members of council. Councilor Molnar.
With respect, I believe I introduced during correspondence portion and was confirmed by the chair and the clerk's consideration would be given to those items because they were being referred to the omnibus report under corporate services. Under that, it was also discussed, and I refrained from moving an amendment to the resolution that Councillor Ryan put on the floor for a bullet point 3, with the recognition that there'd be an opportunity to immediately following the call of that question to put on, in essence, what does represent as option 3. So I don't want to we're all doing our best here. Why there would be any attempt to defer what is a fairly straightforward resolution? It's on the agenda in numerous other areas, and it's an extension of dialogue and debate that's already occurred on the meeting of April the 8th.
Councillor Burt.
I personally stand by that.
Councillor Burt.
Councillor Burt. Thank you, Warden. And I want to echo the sentiment here from Councillor Molnar. When we were dealing with the one that was already published on the agenda from Councillor Ryan, it would have been very simple to add bullet point 3 and add bag tags. And I think that's how I understood it when you steered the conversation to having a separate motion. I thought we would be dealing with it today.
But if you recall, I asked for a mover to add that bullet point 3 on the motion, and I didn't get a mover. So it was felt at that point in time, they didn't want to bring it forward at that time.
Wow.
Yes, I don't think my original question was answered, Warden, and that is what is the easiest way for this to proceed so that this can be brought forward as a report next meeting and not as a notice?
Good question. Everybody seems to know what we need to be doing procedurally, but to be honest with you, I'm not really too sure right now what we need to be doing procedurally. We didn't want to add bag tags to 11.1 to amend that to include what we're including here. We're going to introduce another motion, but we're all aware of the fact that in order to add another motion to a meeting, it has to be circulated, and the motion that's on the floor was not circulated.
Warden, I don't think it has to be circulated. If at council, we agree that the motion can be brought forward by is it 2/3? Is it 2/3 at that point in time? That it can be brought forward at the present meeting. A motion can be done that way.
So are you making that a motion, that we bring this forward for a vote? To put this on the floor to be dealt with?
I can do that. I will make that motion.
Through you, Mr. Warden.
I'll second that motion.
Just to clarify, I think what Councillor Komisky is referring to is correctly from a procedure standpoint, you should have done it as an amendment to the original motion from Councillor Ryan. Having said that, you can now do it as a motion to waive the rules to allow for a motion on bag tags from Councillor Molnar. And then with that 2/3, Councillor Molnar can introduce his motion. I think earlier, Councillor Molnar was trying to confirm that he could make it without an amendment to or waiving of the rules, which was the question he had asked earlier on.
So we need a motion to.
You have it.
To suspend the rules.
Komisky, and seconded by
Birch.
Birch. Okay, so we'll need a 2/3 majority. So the only way we can do this, because I can't see everybody, will be go through a roll call, and the clerk will call out your name.
Warden Martin,
Yes.
Councillor Mayberry,
Yes.
Councillor McKay,
Yes.
Deputy Warden Molnar,
He has his hand up. Go ahead.
Sorry, yeah.
Councillor Peterson,
Councillor Peterson?
Sorry, I said yes.
Councillor Ryan,
Yes.
Councillor Tate,
Okay.
Councillor Talbot,
Yes.
Councillor Birch,
Yes.
So,
Councillor Komisky.
Yes.
so now you can introduce your motion, Councillor Muller.
Oh, I touched my mouth, sorry. Moved by Molnar, seconded by Ryan, resolved that the next meeting of council staff report on the options, implications, and process, in brackets, including consultation on potential impacts to and necessary coordination with area municipalities, on bracket, for which council could authorize suspension of bag tags for a to be defined period of time.
Any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed, if any? Motion is carried unanimous. Any new business inquiries or comments? Seeing none. I just want to take this opportunity to.
Councillor Molnar?
Yes? Go ahead.
He's muted.
We cannot hear you, Councillor.
You're muted, Councillor Muller.
All right, thank you. Resolution, we notice a motion for the next meeting will be circulated to the clerk for review on the 13th or the next meeting of council. Resolved that senior leadership review all operational and capital budget items and identify any opportunities to mitigate costs as a result of COVID-19, and that said report be provided to council by the end of June 2020. Thank you.
And that's for notice of motion, correct?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And because we've adopted a different procedure and a different timeframes for our meetings, that unfortunately, we have a meeting today and our next meeting is until May. And between now and prior to our next meeting, we are going to lose our CAO. And I just want to wish him all well. I have had the opportunity to work with him a lot closer the last, I'm going to say 16 months. And I have great appreciation of the man and where he comes from. He's a very individualistic person. He's very well driven. He stays focused, and he is going to be greatly missed. And it's unfortunate that we can't have a meeting with everybody in the room today, because I'm quite sure that all members of council and the senior management staff feel the same way. So with that, Peter, we would like to take this opportunity to wish you all the best. Enjoy your retirement. And when you're out in the lake catching those fish, think of us. And when you're back having a nightcap at night, you can think of us then too. With that, congratulations and have a good one. This, Councillor Burke, you have one to go into closed session?
Thank you, Warden. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Komisky. Resolved that council go into a closed session to consider a verbal report from the warden regarding personal matters about an identifiable individual.
You've heard the motion. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed, if any? Motion is carried. Now, you'll have to log off and log in onto the a new site that check your emails. It'll have you how to check into closed session. To log out of this one and log into that one and then log back into this one again. That way we know for sure who else here. Thanks, man. I think, there's Ted, okay. You no audio, Ted. Ted, we can't hear you. Oh, that's you, okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, we better do a roll call to make sure everybody's hooked up.
We do have quorum, which is high.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Oh, thank you.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
it's, sorry, Mark, it's giving me a notice that I cannot turn on my webcam because there's now a slow connection. I don't know whether that's on my end or the county as the host. I'm not sure.
Sure, Marcus.
So I think we've got everybody on audio now. We'll try and see. We'll do a roll call to make sure we know who we do have for this part of the meeting. So Chloe, I'll ask you to do that then.
Councillor Birch? Councillor Komisky?
Here.
Councillor Mayberry?
Yes.
Councillor McKay?
No.
Deputy Warden Mulner?
Here.
Councillor Peterson?
Yes, I'm here.
Councillor Ryan?
Here.
Councillor Tate? Councillor Talbot?
Present?
Okay. We do have 6, do we?
We have 6.
Okay then. So I have a motion. I need a mover and a seconder. Do you want to hear the motion I'm looking for?
I am the mover.
Sam?
aren't I? Resolved that the
Sandra?
recommendation.
Go ahead.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Mayberry, resolved that the recommendations contained in the warden's verbal report be adopted.
Okay. Okay, so
Wait
we
a minute.
vote on that and then we vote on this one, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So you've heard the motion. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, if any? Motion is carried. It's unanimous. So do I read this one now too then? Okay. So I need a mover and a seconder for this motion as well, and I'll read the motion and you can resolve the council appoint Larry McCabe as interim chief administrative officer for the county of Oxford effective May 4th, 2020. And further that the information be publicly released. And further that a bylaw appointing Larry McCabe as interim chief administrative officer for the county of Oxford be drafted for the May 13th, 2020 meeting of council. We need a mover.
I'll move that.
Second?
Ted, and seconded by Sandra.
Yes.
Any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Opposed, if any, motion's carried, it's unanimous. Ted and Sandra. Do you want me to write their names in here or just?
I can.
Yeah, okay. That way
We can
keep
carry
it-
on.
keep it.
That's COMISKEY.
Komisky.
That's with 3 or 4 O's then. I see O-M. Anyway.
Would you like bylaws?
Yes, I would. Councilor Talbot.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Mayberry, resolved that the filing bylaws be now read a first and second time, 62-13-2020 through to 62-17-2020 inclusive.
You've heard the motion. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion is carried unanimous. Councilor Talbot.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Mayberry, resolved that the filing bylaws be now given a third and final reading, 62-13-2020 through 62-17-2020 inclusive.
You've heard the motion. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor?
Yes.
Opposed, if any? Motion is carried. It's unanimous. We need a motion to adjourn.
Mulner.
Oh, Councilor Molnar, you were late on that one, Ted. And I thank you for bearing with us. Hopefully we'll get better. So, have a good day and stay safe.
Thanks all.
Stay safe.
Keep
Yeah,
safe.
Went pretty well.
Yeah, very well
We'll
done.
take care. Irish whiskey, it'll take it away.
Okay. I was gonna tell him he didn't know how to spell the name, so we had to go with
I
one
just
who
want
could
you
spell.
guys to know that David and Larry were the only ones that dressed up, so not that anybody.
What, I put on a shirt.
Have you got pants on?
That's what I was just gonna say.
You
Goodbye,
folks
all.
take care of yourselves.
You too.
Yeah, take care.